So how was your trip up?
It was smooth. I came up Sunday morning, left at like 7, and just.
I wasn't able to leave Virginia Beach until 5:45 in the evening.
Yeah. I assumed it was gonna be around.
She's trying to finish us.
Yeah.
Well, the great thing is which way do we go home? Yeah, 460 is. The copy. Get it on 81 at 6.
I came up at
That's how I did it coming up.
my wife.
Oh, there is one.
And I've seen things like this quality that she wouldn't mind if I missed it.
Right.
There it is, just showed up.
Philip and sister came up, my sister came up.
Right.
And then after go to dinner. And I came back like,
They might like to change. Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, if I hit 8, okay, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
First part.
I'm ready to go through.
Okay.
Let's just try to stay positive.
Oh, closer to where you started. I don't even like traffic.
Just Terry.
They might not be great.
Yeah.
And then we met up with Jody and her librarian. So we've been hanging together.
I've never been able to get my librarian.
Oh, mine is always good.
And I feel like that's a normal thing.
She's always said she gets way more of Misty than she does.
Last time I had a green, like I'm not, he's like.
Everyone ready for a last day of learning?
Yes.
Yes. What's the best thing you've learned so far? You haven't learned anything from us, so it could be anything.
Failure is not an endpoint, but data point.
All right, love it. Anyone else? Your biggest takeaway so far?
Task before tool, I heard that. I think I've heard it before, but I really heard it
Today.
Now where you're going before you.
Anyone else? Any big takeaway? I'm excited to look into that rigor framework that Adam shared yesterday. I'm excited to look into and use with my teachers.
That was a good session.
That was a great session.
It was a great Jamboard session.
I don't have anything to add, it was like yesterday.
And since we're talking about Canvas, the bit.ly will take you to a public Canvas course, which is how we're sharing our resources today. What was your biggest takeaway?
I think like similarly to task before tool, there's a lot of tools that do the same thing. Don't be stuck on one tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also like from the PD perspective, like as a coach, I both go into classrooms to teach as well as run PD, thinking about like if I'm trying to teach my teachers something, I need to demonstrate it and use it, not just teach them how to use it. Which I think we tried to model a little bit with this, like you're getting your resources from Canvas. If it's about Canvas, like it should go from Canvas. So like, you know, there's nothing more frustrating like going to a training and they're like, use this great organizer tool, but they don't use it in the session other than to talk about it. Like, let me experience it. Let me see what it's really like.
And of course, we don't have any interactive elements in the Canvas course. We have links to things what will be interactive because we couldn't enroll everyone who is coming in a course and have proper things, but we'll share a lot today.
I think another good thing I saw yesterday, I went to one of Carl Hooker's sessions, and it was like, you can use all the technology, but you still need to like get up and move. Like kids and adults cannot sit on a computer, not for even 7 hours, but not even for like a full class period. Like after 20 minutes, get up and do something for a minute. And so like just ideas for like.
And that's whether there's technology involved or not.
Yeah.
You gotta get up
Good
and
teaching.
move.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed at how many people expect young children to sit still.
I think that was one of the most freeing things from learning at home. You could be wherever you wanted, move however you wanted. You guys just want to get to the bit.ly at the top of the screen. That's what we'll be using as our resource today. That will link to everything else you're going to be doing. And who is a coach here? Coach, ITRT. Do we have any classroom teachers who want to be coaches here today?
Any admin?
You said that begrudgingly.
It was like don't notice me.
All right.
So welcome to Leveraging Canvas for Ongoing PD. So we're gonna talk, we'll go through our agenda in a second, but like a little bit about PD as well as how Canvas is a tool for PD.
All right.
So our agenda today is what is sustained PD? What does it mean to have not just a one-off session like you're experiencing this weekend, but like ongoing supported learning? How Canvas can be used for sustained PD. We'll go through some examples of stuff we've both done in our district as coaches, some stuff we've done solo, some stuff we've done together. So and then we'll have a think, pair, share to reflect on that. Then we'll think about how Canvas can be used to support instructional rounds, which in our district is a very big district-wide push, and I think it's kind of across the state as well, seeing more and more instructional rounds happening. A discussion about instructional rounds, and then a reflection activity. So you can make sure you've pulled up that bit.ly because all of our interactive activities are linked from there. So I'm Emily Robinson. I'm an instructional technology coach in Prince William County. I am a former engineer turned science teacher turned tech coach. So I try to like use a lot of those background experiences when I'm thinking about supporting classrooms as well as teachers. Like I went into engineering with no engineering background. I had to learn on the go, which is really what we expect students to do and what we expect teachers to do when we roll out a new tool and we just throw them at it and say like, well, do this strategy or use this tool or teach this thing. So like I try to use my experiences to kind of guide that and add in some creativity and some support to have reflection happening over time.
And I'm Katie Fielding. I am also a tech coach in Prince William County, and I was also previously a science teacher. She was my work wife, and now we get to be work wives again in the tech role, which is very exciting. And we're both certified Canvas educators, and I'm also a Google Innovator trainer and coach, a Microsoft Innovator expert, and some other things that could be meaningful. I don't know.
So we're going to start with just a little reflection and a brainstorm. So what makes good PD? So if you want to go to menti.com and put in that code.
So 978 or 9786-0416. All right, seeing some good words here. Hopeful, I like that one.
Engaging, interactive, those kind of go together. Useful, applicable. I love the one that's not an email, because I feel like meetings should often be an email, but good PD should be some interactive experience. Needs-based, useful.
Personalized. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of things that are good for our students are going to be good for our teachers.
What characteristics do you align with the best PDs you've attended? So thinking about like all the great PDs you've attended, like what do they have in common? How would you describe them?
Or if you've never attended a good PD, what is the opposite?
Yeah. What do you wish they did?
We can see that engaging is like the most important part. You don't want to just sit and get, you want to be a part of the learning process.
I like to think about it like if it's not engaging, why didn't I just watch a YouTube video from that company or from the person who made the tool or the strategy? Like, what's the point of doing a PD if you're not doing something with it? So when we were thinking about this, we thought about both our experiences as learners, as PD leaders, as well as looking into research. And we found that sustained PD is really what research is saying is better. It's not those single one-offs. Those work if you want to introduce an idea or if you go to a conference and you get lots of ideas. But if you think about this weekend, like you've probably by the end gone to 15 different sessions. You've got 15 ideas. How many are you actually going to take and go do something with? You take a lot of notes. How many people actually really look back on those? So like thinking about sustained PD is really helpful, and that PD should model best teaching practices. So it's content focused, it's active learning, it's collaboration, which you'll see like we're gonna do some stuff together. It should not be this solo endeavor always. It uses models and modeling. There's coaching, there's feedback and reflection, which is a really big part of it that just like we ask our students, we want teachers to also reflect. As you learn, you implement, you reflect. You learn a little bit more about that, you try to implement again, you reflect again. There's a sustained duration, and it supports professional learning communities. And the big part of why we really felt like sustained PD was important is that a lot of research has been done that those single experiences don't help as much. That you need 50 hours of PD in a given area to improve skills of the teacher as well as for student learning. So sustained PD allows you to have more time on that topic. And all those 50 hours don't need to be face-to-face. It could be you go to a session, you go implement in your classroom, you work with the coach and come back and think about it. You try another part, you do a reading on Canvas. So it's just over the duration of a year, having those learning experiences be connected to be ongoing. And that could be that mix of readings, asynchronous, synchronous, reflections, collaboration, peer work, and then instructor or coach support. And then this is kind of where it separates from when you think about like what you do to support teachers in teaching students is sometimes a little bit different how you want to support teachers. Adult learning principles are really important to think about as you design PD. So often the best, like the top 6 descriptors of it are that it's self-directed. Teachers have choice in what they're focusing on or choice in how they're doing it or how they're engaging. There's some intrinsic motivation. This is always not the case. Like there's a lot of district and statewide pushes of like, you have to learn this or you have to do that. But finding ways for them to build some intrinsic motivation, even if that's goal setting within the learning experience. So maybe that using Canvas, that first activity is like, here's what we're gonna cover. Here's my goal as an instructor. What is your goal as a teacher learner? What do you wanna get out of it? And then at the very end, they can come back to that first activity or assignment they did and reflect, did they meet that goal? Did their goal change over time? It's gonna be based in the learner experience. It is problem-centered. There's nothing worse than you just learn some random tool or strategy and it's not focused on something you need in your classroom or in your role. And that ties with that, the need to know, and that you need a readiness to learn. You can't teach adults if they are not ready, they're not willing, they don't have the support and the time. This is really a struggle this year where teachers feel more burnt out than ever. It's always been a huge burnout problem. It seems even worse this year. Upside of that is that at least teachers are talking about how they feel unsupported and overwhelmed and burnt out and just can't add another thing. So that's where you can maybe leverage those feelings and discussions to say like, I know how you feel, but by engaging in this learning activity, I'm going to be able to support you doing these other things. And that might help alleviate some of those other stresses. That rather than grade all of the activities you do, let's try this other way of doing something in class. And that might lower your workload in other ways. That it's not really just adding something new, it's supporting in other ways. And then another part of sustained PD is that you really need to set some norms and some culture. This is going to be true if you're just working within teachers in your school, or if you're like a coach and you're running a PD that's open to everyone in your district or in your region or broader, is that a lot of it is going to be asynchronous, or it might be new teachers, it might be teachers new to your building, teachers from other schools. You need to build that trust and establish values. This is really important that like you can't learn together unless the teachers trust their PD leader, you trust them, and that you trust each other as a community, because a lot of learning comes from sharing your classroom experiences. Teaching is so silo in your room, but learning happens when you share with each other and you learn together. And some of that can start from using some icebreakers. So we linked in the slides a Canva template you can use for some icebreakers. They work really well if you're doing some stuff online, because that's just how it works better in your building, or you have teachers from multiple buildings. It's really important to have an intro message from the instructor. So this is also a way that like they can come back and watch that video. If you're gonna meet in person, you introduce yourself in person, but if it's gonna be a Canvas course and they do their PD, some mostly asynchronous and some meetings with you, make a little video of who you are, why you're leading this PD, what they're gonna get out of it, and that you have student introductions as well. So you get to know your learners and they get to know each other. I'm not gonna be willing to get feedback from another teacher about my teaching if I don't know anything about them. That's just a stranger telling me something. That's not helpful. It's not building trust. You're also going to think about building in timelines for engagement, that you're going to have due dates as you learn together. Some of those are going to be flexible. So like they should have done X, Y, or Z by these different points so they can get to the end of the year and have accomplished whatever that learning goal was. And then some are going to be solid due dates. If you want them to have peer feedback or collaboration, it doesn't work if I've done all my work and I'm waiting on Katie and she hasn't even started, which in this case is usually the opposite for us. I'm currently the slacker. And that you have office hours for support. Your learners know when you're gonna be available. You've got a set time they can reach out for live support, or set times where, like, if they send you an email, when will you respond by? Is this like a 2-hour turnaround during a workday? Is it a 2-week turnaround? Is it a never reply? And that you have discussion protocols. A lot of ongoing learning happens between learners through discussions. So peer feedback is a really good part. So we gave you an example of what we've used in several of our PDs with a glow and grow. So like we always tell students when they give peer feedback, or we tell adults, something good, something you can work on, but we provide sentence stems. Teachers need it just as much as students. How are you gonna guide that feedback? How is it gonna actually be useful? It's not helpful to say, like, I loved what you did in your room. That's not reflective, it's not supported. So providing those stems help a lot. And then you're gonna encourage risk taking. So the work should be challenging and meaningful. Why go if you're not gonna get anything actually valuable out of it? It's about taking those little steps of risk to grow your practice. And that you have reflection protocols without it throughout the experience. So you're reflecting as you grow and learning. And that goal setting is a really big part of this. So there should be a goal that you have as a PD leader, what you want your learners to learn, but you also want your learners to set a goal for what do they hope to get out of it. They read the session description. What do they hope to learn? What do they hope to do with it? How are they going to do that? How are they going to assess it? And that intention setting is so important. We gave you 2 links. One of them is a SMART goal template. So we're really big fans of creativity and creation in our roles, both with adults and with students. So using things like Adobe Spark or Canva are a way they can reflect and set goals. But it's a little less pressure than having to write like a paragraph about what is your SMART goal. It's also a little more meaningful than like when you have to set your professional growth plan each year. You have to just write a SMART goal and you're like, well, I'm being assessed on this. So let me make up a goal I'm gonna meet. And it's usually not meaningful, but when you digitize it in a way where you can kind of reflect on it as you go, teachers are more willing to really set a true SMART goal, and they've thought about each aspect of it, and it's for them.
And the postcard is basically you're writing a postcard to yourself about your goal that you'll then reflect on at the end of the course.
And this is also like a great UDL strategy because not all learners are going to express themselves well using just sentences. Like our annual professional growth plan, you have to write a sentence SMART goal. That doesn't work for everyone. So like using a postcard or a graphic organizer lets you break it into the parts. You might use words, you might use graphics, you might use a voiceover, you might draw in pictures of it. It's like letting them really find that goal that means something to them in a way they can share it. Sustained PD is also really important to have collaboration. Teachers spend all day in their room alone. Maybe they have a co-teacher, maybe they don't. Most of their day, they're the only adult that they're working with. They aren't getting reflection, they aren't getting feedback, they aren't getting collaboration. Learning in PD is where that happens for them. So even if you're going through Canvas for your PD and supporting teachers, collaboration can still happen. That can happen with Canvas discussion boards. And it's really important in those that you set expectations for peer feedback, that the directions say you will post and you will reply to X number of people, and that you even provide those prompts, a glow and a grow, or a advice, something where they are truly giving interaction, not just a thumbs up, great job, move on, I checked the box that I did it. Canvas groups are another great option where you can group students. They can have collaborative documents, they can have shared space. You have peer review on assignments in Canvas. So when you make the assignment, one of the little options is peer review. You can let Canvas auto assign a peer to review their paper, or you can assign it yourself. This is one of the ones where you have to have everyone with a harder due date because it's not going to work if I'm done and no one else is, and they aren't going to give me feedback before I want to move on to the next part. But it is a fun way for them to experience peer feedback but without having to actually be in the same space at the same time. And then Canvas collaborations, which is in that navigation bar, lets you have collaborative documents, as well as you can just use like the LTIs for Canvas or Google.
All right, so we wanted to share some examples of things that we've done, like she said, together and also separately, that have been, we feel, effective and more a sustained model of PD in our district. So the first thing is we each have a staff workroom. How many of you guys are using a Canvas staff workroom? No one. Who's using Canvas? Everyone. All right. So each of us, we've created a classroom for our staff. That is the hub for everything, all the documents that teachers need. So you kind of do something like that. Okay. So we have one in my school for general staff workroom, but I also have a specific, I'm a tech coach, tech workroom, where I create modules of self-paced PD. So for instance, we recently got Respondus lockdown browser. I have 180 teachers to support. It is a lot of work. So I created a self-paced module that I said, hey, complete this self-paced module. After you do it, if you still have questions, then let's meet. But I can't meet with, 180 people individually right now about Respondus lockdown browser. So really creating some modules to organize PD and information about technology. You can also remember to, if you're creating a playlist of options, use those prerequisite options in the Canvas module to have students or your teachers, when we say students, we're referring to teachers, go through the module at their own pace and making their own choices. You can also differentiate with mastery paths. So teachers could do an assessment at the beginning of the module, and then they can take them down a different path based on their needs. So really those same features that we're using in Canvas with students can be used with teachers as well. And again, we really always like to emphasize using reflection.
I'll say like the workroom is also really helpful if you're ever going to be out. If you've taught teachers to go to the workroom and look for answers first. So like teachers expect students to ask 3, then me. I try to have that teachers do the same thing. Like, you want to learn about Respondus? Do the module, then we'll talk. You don't know how to use this other tool? Did you look through that reference page or not? Then we'll talk.
So this is just a little video of my Canvas tech workroom. And so I do a few things, like I have those modules for things that come up through the year, but I also have a theme module for every month. So you can see November was Formative Fusion badge. So if they complete that module that month, they get a sticker. So, I mean, you would be amazed, adults still do things for stickers, but they're badges, but I made physical stickers that they can then put on their work laptop. And then other people around the building can see, oh, wow, like you did that module, let's talk about it. So that's just, making a hub with Canvas is a nice thing to give teachers a place to go to find PD. We've also taught a few asynchronous courses in our district. And so this is like a completely self-paced course. We did 3 or 4 different ones over the summer. So no one's meeting, we're not having any meeting times, but we just create courses that teachers can go through on their own. We really utilize discussion boards and that peer feedback because we wanted people to, last year was our first year with Canvas, and then the summer came, and last year was crazy. We wanted them to take a look at what they did in Canvas last year and spend the summer refining it. Something you're gonna do as a teacher anyway, but we wanted them to get PD for it, and we wanted to also provide some direction on things that they should look for as they're refining it. Then they would make a little screen video of their refined module, talk about what the revisions they made, and then share that on a discussion board and then get peer feedback from other people doing it on where they could take it even further. So this is meaningful, right? We talked about that meaningful piece. Like they're getting PD for something they're doing over the summer already. That is going to be something that helps them more than any other sit and get type session can be. Like, here's some ideas for things to put into your Canvas practice. Now let's do it. Take some time over the summer and do it and get feedback. So this is one of the courses we did this summer. We did a creative educator with Adobe Spark and Canva. So introducing them to the tools. They had some time over the summer to play with the tools and then add them to a module that they already did last year, changing an assignment and adding Spark or Canva to it and, getting ready for the next year. We also have done some synchronous courses. We have one coming up that we're excited about, teaching a creative educator course. And so this course will be, face-to-face on Zoom. But again, organizing the modules by week so teachers can see what they're going to be doing in the course. We have some pre-work that they're going to be able to do and submit. We always like to, in all of the courses we create, keep universal learning, design for learning in mind. So whenever we provide directions, we have a video of directions. Adult learners are learners. They learn in different ways, just like students. Practically my whole ESOL department are English language, not native speakers. So they have the similar needs as our ESOL students do. So making sure you're providing multiple means of representation in the directions you provide to adults is important too. So this is one of our synchronous course that we have coming up. I really like making, there's one means of representation, a course map showing them where they're going to go. This is made with GDLE. But so each week, they're just going to have an idea just by looking on this page, what's going to happen in this course. Previewing material for adults is also important, just like for students. And then each module, for each week, there's a module of content. So we have some support resources, not stuff we're going to go over, but just like if you're not familiar with these tools, you can dive in a little more before we get started. Because our focus of this course is not learning the tools, it's how to apply them in a UDL and blended learning setting. And so you need to kind of work on playing with the tool yourself before you come to learn about let's more applying it. Because that application part is the stuff that just can't be done as well in a YouTube video. All right, and something else we did last spring was a podcast club. This is a completely asynchronous course, but each week we would post different episodes of different podcasts to listen to, have discussion boards, and then people could listen on their way to work or on their way home, and then respond on the discussion board. So using that commute time to do some PD, listen, think, and then share their responses on a discussion board. So we made a Spotify playlist and just add things to that playlist. So it made it really easy for people to, oh, I'm in my car, I want to do that PD, but I just open Spotify, get in the playlist, listen, and then when I get to school, I'll write a response, my planning period. And that's, some nice asynchronous PD for teachers to do. You can do the same thing with a book club. So what we would like you to do is we want you to do a think, paired, share. So in the Canvas course that we've shared with you, let's see. There should be a link to this template for a think, pair, share. And I see some people getting into it. So here's the course. You should see this link that says think, pair, share. And we would love for you to take a few minutes, cozy up to someone else, maybe COVID cozy, and think, pair, share about some ideas you've gotten already that you might want to implement when you go back. So again, we're building in that feedback piece. So you and your partner can just find a page. You can see there's multiple pages. If you need to, you can duplicate a page. You can just go ahead and put your names at the top of it and claim that page. If you need to duplicate, just click at the bottom and say duplicate page. And let's take some time for a reflection.
And if you are unsure how to use Canva, feel free to ask. We will walk around and help.
Save 10 hours studying for this growth session. But no, by all means.
Yeah, I was like,
Started doing lesson plans.
Every time we come up to our summer.
I really want to do
You'll have at least one. Yeah. All right. Let's look at some of the stuff that you put in. So I see some really great responses and ideas. So I just want to kind of take some time to go over them. All right. So again, you can go through the slides and add gem of an idea. So you can just slide up a gem if you really like what someone said. I also love in Canva that you can just go find little elements, and you'll see that I've added some stuff. So all right. So this person really liked that the summer PD to have the time to put new ideas into implementation in Canva and kind of get things ready for the coming year. Yeah, I think people that did that, we had some amazing submissions, like really thoughtful submissions. The people that did it, I think really got a lot out of it, and it really helped them prepare for the new year. Do you have any that you want to?
I think it also was really helpful because teachers want to be reflective, but they don't often know how to reflect or how to improve. So teachers who went through a couple of our summer courses, there were very specific prompts about learning about blended learning or UDL strategies, and they'd learn something through a couple different Canvas pages or videos or activities and discussion boards. They'd go back and look at one of their courses from last year. They'd pick one module and they'd just slowly change things. It felt much less overwhelming for them, was the feedback we got from teachers, that they weren't trying to recreate a new Canvas class for this year. They weren't starting from scratch. They knew the basics. They got one new way of doing it, and they're just slowly tweaking things. And we set it very small goals, in one module, change one or two things, see how that feels. And that kind of gave them that incentive to keep going, okay, this isn't more work. This is just a different way of doing that activity that might be more engaging, more reflective. And it was summer. They chose to do it. They put in the level of work they wanted. But then when we got back to school, some teachers were like, well, Joe told me he did this and it was amazing. Are you going to offer it again in the fall so I can have that learning experience? So and it was easy because we already had it in Canvas. We just had to duplicate the course, set in new due dates for the semester, and then we're doing it as a fall learning course. And then that way in the spring, they've learned all the things and they can just have the spring to implement and reflect.
Yeah.
Right now, our school is Schoology, but we're moving to Canvas. And the start of the pandemic forced me into using a model very similar to what you're doing. And the first things that the teachers came back with was, one, is it still going to be available to them so they can go back to it as a reference? I had built 12 to 15 asynchronous courses in there, followed up with office hours. Two, is it going to be available next year? And I also made a rule that no video in it would be more than 10 minutes long.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then they would have a chunk, something to do. And they loved it. I had 358 hours of PD completed in 3 months' time and a 40-person staff.
That's great.
And they told me never go back to the old way of doing things.
Because it's meaningful to them, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the things we saw for adult learners, andragogy. It has to be meaningful. They have to have intrinsic motivation to do it. So if it's something that's going to help them in their practice and it's going to be useful in their
And
classroom.
like you said 180, my staff is much smaller,
Yeah.
but I can't do it 50, 60 times.
Yeah, right.
And at the start of the pandemic, there are so many different topics that different people wanted. I just built the courses and let them pick.
Yep, exactly.
And
Choice
it's also
is really
great when you
important.
do it in Canvas because you are now modeling what you want teachers to do with their Canvas classes. So when they'd have a question about well, how should I set up my page? I'd send them a link to one of the pages in our course and be like, well, look at this. I have the video directions and then the written directions and then an exemplar. I didn't have to create an answer. I just had to send them to see it. So they were seeing what they should be doing.
I've been doing this for 11 years, and that was the biggest breakthrough point, was doing those asynchronous courses. And I was always in the background. And when it kicked off, the principal was like, we should have been listening to you all along. And at the end of the year, I ended up getting Teacher of the Year. So
I think we've all found a lot of validation since the pandemic in our roles. Yeah, I'm glad you like the podcast idea. It worked really well. And again, it was, I think I saw a question ahead, like how do you get teachers to participate? You do have to have a variety of options. So you can see we had several courses, like no, one course isn't gonna be the tea for everyone. So it does take like collaborating with another ITC, if you have them in your district, is helpful, because like we can have 5 or 6 courses running at the same time that we're co-teaching. And this summer we wanted summer still, right? We alternated weeks of feedback. Like, so one week I was the feedback person giving feedback for all 6 courses. The next week she was the feedback person. So we still got time to have summer and enjoy ourselves, go on our trip, ongoing trips, but do whatever it is we needed to do for summer. So collaboration for these types of asynchronous courses can really be key.
It also draws in more teachers, because most teachers, at least in larger districts, know teachers at other schools. Either they knew each other outside of school, or were out of school together and then have gone to separate ways. But they can be like, well, like my tech coach is doing this thing and she's amazing. You should go sign up too. And that draws in some more people and it helps garner interest. And by having 2 of us leading it, like I listen to different podcasts than Katie does. When we'd search for just podcast ideas, because a lot of them were like not stuff I regularly listen to, I just Google search like podcast about a topic I was interested in that week. And I'd post it. She'd post something very different. Teachers got to kind of pick like what resonated with them at that specific moment.
And all the podcasts we chose were not educational specific. There's a lot of really great productivity podcasts out there. And that's a topic that a lot of teachers need support in right now, is how to be efficient, manage time. So you can think like there's so many different podcasts, different life hacks that you can have, that it doesn't just have to be education specific. I saw a hand over here. Yeah.
So to y'all and to you right here, did your admin make it mandatory or is this optional?
Optional.
All of these we did were optional. The only mandatory ones we had were ones that were district or school mandated, that we happened to also put, like we have a district-wide accessibility course requirement. That was required. We had like one welcome back module I had required where that's how they did their like setting up for the year of how to do their grade book and their class web page and their Canvas course, but everything else was optional. Some years, like teachers might only be motivated because it's their renewal year and they need hours. But then they got that buy-in, they actually learned something, they're gonna keep doing it.
for me, it was very similar. There was some stuff that was put out by the district that was mandatory, but when the pandemic started, all they said was every Monday was going to be PD. It's up to the principal what happens. My principal turned the whole thing over to me and said, you got it for the first 3 Mondays, and the only requirement was they had to do 2 topics each Monday. And my topics, actually, I let them go. They had to start it that Monday, but however long it took them to finish it. There was no real stipulation on that. And
My principal-
I did 4 topics a week so they would have choices.
My principal has been very concerned about the socio-emotional well-being of our teachers and has not wanted to require many things. And I think a lot of people really appreciate that. So I think it is like, imperative for us to really make our sessions engaging and meaningful to them, which is hopefully what you'll take away from here. So that the peer pressure really does, like someone asked in another slide, like, how do you get people to participate? And really it's like a few people, you get your few people, and then they really tell other people. They're like, oh, this was really useful for me. And then like she said, like people asked us to do it in the fall. Can we do this again? And can my whole PLC wants to do this now. Can we do this together? And that's another really great way to do it, is like have them do it together. No one has to create and redo a module by themselves. Like have you all reflect together, create that module as a PLC, use that PLC time to earn some PD as well, and put these practices into play.
I kicked mine off with a Google form to find out what topics they were interested in and started from the most hits and worked my way through it. And I did 4 topics a week. And then my math and language arts coaches jumped on board. I built a course for them in Schoology, and they started putting modules in there, doing the same thing with the math and the reading, and that became the norm for the school.
I'd say asynchronous is a huge way to draw people in
Well,
because they do not have to do another thing at a set time. As someone who is like a fairly long afternoon commute, my morning commute's great. My afternoon commute might be 30 minutes, it might be 90 minutes. I'm also like highly motivated to get home to my dog. She's like my favorite thing in the world that like, I'm like,
Don't have a
not
baby, though.
another meeting, like, yeah.
and like I
You
said,
know, my priority is the
I put
dog.
stipulations on segments in there. No video was more than 10 minutes, and the teachers were like, that way I could do 15 minutes and go do something else. I mean, they didn't have to sit there for 45 minutes for a chunk. And I lost my train of thought there. But anyway,
The
But-
courses, if you build them, it can be a lot of upfront work. It can take you, if you want to make a quality course, it can take you some time. But then it's like ready for us to use for the next, we'll make tweaks from year to year, but that stuff's ready for us to use now.
and I provided a Google form to get feedback from them on those tweaks. And when they saw those tweaks go in place, they realized I was listening to it. But,
All
I
right,
also followed up my asynchronous with office hours, so that if they had to contact somebody, got stuck, they could contact me.
yeah, we did that as well. And that, we would kind of do it through the summer, and it wasn't like people didn't want to meet. I'll be honest. They really wanted to be on their own, but then, this year it's more so. We just wanted to wrap up today talking about instructional rounds. Whose districts are doing instructional rounds or maybe walkthroughs? You walk and observe, like a focus on going class to class in a very systematic way. So this actually comes from medical practice. And so Emily's gonna talk about that.
So this is what we have we had it a few years ago in our district. It's come back, especially as we're transitioning back into in-person. But like they referenced yesterday, like we don't want to go back to normal. We want to go back to new. So as we've started doing instructional rounds, it's mostly the admin team. But I wanted to be very clear with teachers, like, what does this mean? What could they look for? It changes what, like, in the old days, it was right on your chalkboard. The student will be able to. Now, like, your board might just be a smart board and you're putting up other things, like, where are they finding those learning goals? So, like, having a place to understand instructional rounds as well as to be reflective was really important. So this is something I'm working with my admin team for them to see that Canvas can be used from an administration level as well. They've let me run my own way with the PD side and the tech side. They've shied away from it, but now I'm trying to like pull them in to have them understand it as well. So having a Canvas course or a module within a course be like the hub to outline your school focus and your school goals that they're looking at in instructional rounds. It's also where you can have that reference place for learnings. So when they do their instructional rounds and they're looking for like, what does student talk look like? You might put up some readings about what student talk is in discourse. There's a place for teachers and admin to go learn together, or a book study. You can share exemplars as resources from like Canvas courses or videos from when they did instructional rounds of a classroom. You have reflection space. This could be solo reflection space. It could be discussion boards or documents to reflect together. And that's where you're going to see like a big part of doing instructional rounds is it's not just the observations, but it's about the reflections and then the improvements based on those reflections. So having that be like a space where you reflect and you grow together. But again, we want to be cognizant of the time focus and the draw on teachers and admin that like you can't always sit down and have everyone come together and talk. So having that asynchronous option where they can discuss, what did you notice in this video? Why is this so great? Like, how could I watch this classroom and then go do something in my classroom that might help my students as well? And instructional rounds are iterative. So this is the place where you can keep coming back to that same spot to reflect and grow. Like back in the old days, admin had a 3-ring binder and they would fill out a little paper when they walked through and did an instructional round. They'd talk to the teacher about it, write a reflection, put it back in the binder, go to the next room, put in a new paper in the binder. No one ever looked at that binder again. It sat on a shelf in between. When you move it to Canvas, it becomes a place where it's actually interactive it's iterative, it's changing, it's collaborative, and it really changes what that learning looks like. It also takes away a lot of the fear of being observed. Like, especially when you have new teachers, they freak out when they're like, someone's coming in to watch me. Even if I'm coming in as a tech coach, teachers get nervous and they're like, I have to constantly remind them, like, I am a coach. I am not an admin. I'm not your supervisor. I'm not going to snitch on you. I'm here to help you. We can work together. But there's still a lot of fear because you spend all day in a room alone. Anytime an adult comes in, you're like, well, what if they don't like it? What are they going to tell me? What's wrong? Teachers are often the hardest people on themselves because they aren't getting that growth feedback. So when they get feedback, it's either I'm putting you on an improvement plan or you're fine, I'll see you in a year. Like, that's not helpful learning. So using instructional rounds, if you frame them as a way to learn, you can learn together, Canvas becomes that space. It kind of changes why you want to do observations, and it creates that culture of learning and community. So if you jump back into the Canvas link we gave you, there is another Canva activity where there's a compass points activity.
This is a Who Knows Project Zero thinking routines. Anyone? Kind of, yeah. So this is one example of a Project Zero thinking routine. This is a reflection. So again, just jump into the Canva and pick a slide. This is individual. And let's see. Here we go. Make a copy. Take some time for reflection. You can still talk to people around you. But go ahead and kind of reflect on what we've talked about today and how you might implement it when you go home. I've made like a whole series of these thinking routines into Canva templates. So these are just, if you look at Project Zero thinking routines, I'll add it to the Canvas course later. But these are a great way to add reflection into your class. And if you like this template, if you've never used Canva before, you can always go to File, make a copy, and you can use this like with your own students. So you can do that for this and the Think, Pair, Share. And if you like Canva and want to know more, we're presenting about Canva at 1 p.m. today. And we have a lot of swag, like a lot.
Canvas in a very large box. So. Teachers like free stuff.
We got free stuff.
I'm leaving before then, darn it.
Oh, I know. All right, Tiffany is asking, oh, not pulling up from the Canvas page. Do you have a direct link to the presentation? Yes, Tiffany, I'll put it in the chat for you. Thank you for coming, guys.
While she's looking for that, Emily, if you don't mind my asking, with things like Project Zero, with those thinking routines, if you create something like that with the Canva or say Adobe Spark, cited, is there a specific, do you have a specific term that they?
Not
you know,
that I've
it's-
seen.
it's
I think
like-
it's open.
Yeah,
Just
it's,
totally open?
yeah.
It's like
Oh, wow.
from their
and there are like thinking protocols that you've probably seen some other places that they kind of pull them together.
Yeah,
like
And they
Pair Share
of course.
is
Yeah.
done by everybody.
And what's really nice is they have them in English and Spanish, like the directions. So if you have teachers that are Spanish speakers, then that's a nice resource for them as well.
I have an interesting week because
That it may be a university. Homeowners, but it's
one of them,
like-
Amanda Lewis,
Just talking about it, and you can filter
just got
them
interviewed.
by, you know, what you're trying to